And just like that, here we are, part 3 of this Ecoboom nightmare. I have parts laying everywhere. There's hardly 1 square foot of this garage that doesn't have some type of part laying on it. All of this work just to figure out why this engine failed so unexpectedly and to see exactly what Ford is refusing to see. This has been one hell of a project. And it's not even really because I want to be doing it. I'd rather be driving the car, not dealing with this headache. But we have to figure out what happened with this thing. And in the last video, you saw some very interesting surprises that I was not actually expecting. And part of me thinks that that stuff has been there a long time, pretty much since the engine was initially built. And if you think that was a surprise, oh, you're in for a treat in this video, because what you're about to see is going to blow your mind. And hopefully this will save me from blowing my wallet. 3, 2, 1. Oh! Oh no! Let's go ahead and, oh, there's a bolt, set this to the side. Okay, so as you can see, the cylinder head is off. And there's actually some really good news to this, because I was really concerned that the combustion chamber for cylinder 3, which is this one right here, was going to be really, really bad and not savable. But good news is, it's actually not all that bad. Of course, it did get beat up a little bit. You know, you got some pits and stuff, but none of this damage, let me remove the gasket here. None of this damage is nothing that can't be fixed. A machine shop could have all of this cleaned up in like less than an hour, I'm sure. It's not even that bad. The valves are a little beat up. They might need to be replaced in this, but as far as the head being savable, yes. This head perfectly reusable, which is good. This is one of the only things I really care about on this engine, is this right here, and those. They're better too. But this is definitely a better piece over the regular Ecoboost. Cylinder 4 looks fine. Cylinder 2 looks fine. Cylinder 1 looks fine. It was just this cylinder right here. So with that out of the way, you are probably very curious to know what those cylinders look like and the piston that we know is bad in cylinder 3. So without waiting any further, let me go ahead and show you. Not what you see is going to be pretty, so prepare yourselves. Cylinder 1, not too bad, not too bad. Cylinder 2, you know, looks fine. Cylinder, oh my God, oh Lord. There's a hole here and there. That piston is cracked straight down the center, and it's just the top portion of the piston that remains. The skirt and the bottom part of the piston is still laying in the bottom of the oil pan. This is just the crown of the piston that is wedged in the cylinder here. And I think the only thing wedging it in there is the rings, I think. It's just the rings are all bound up. And then you can see cylinder 4 looks fine. But with that said, I'm going to pull the camera back. And I want you to take a good look of how each one of these cylinders look. The tops of the pistons. They don't look too bad considering all things. There's hardly any carbon buildup on these pistons once again. Catch can, I've done cleanings. I took very good care of this engine. Minimal carbon buildup on the pistons. But if you pay very close attention, you'll notice something different about the carbon buildup on all 4 of these. The fact that the middle 2 doesn't have any. 4 has some carbon buildup. 1 has some carbon buildup. 2 and 3, these pistons look freaking brand new, like they've just been put in. That, for me, raised so many red flags that I just had to stop when I pulled that off and just regroup myself on what I am seeing, because I am not an expert, but I've been around cars long enough to the point where I know when something ain't right. I may not be an expert, but I know when something ain't right. And there is something not right about this picture right here. The fact that these 2 are almost clean and these outer 2 have carbon on them like you would see in any engine. This indicates to me that coolant has been leaking, that is the key word, to either of these two cylinders, being able to burn off and clean these as the car runs a very small amount. I think maybe looking back on the car when I first got it versus now, the coolant level has maybe changed. I can show you something else that is a telltale sign that this has been going on for a while and that this is a sealing issue between the head and the block. Here's the coolant expansion tank. You see that? You see that big glob of black crud built up right there? You see that, right? After seeing what has happened, I immediately went back and checked the overflow tank, because I remember seeing that, but I remember seeing that for a while now. In fact, I can go back in my videos and document how long I've been seeing this, and it goes back months, if not over a year. And to make this even more of a complicated issue, I made a video going all the way back to the first year I got this car, because I noticed some crap that was building up in the expansion tank, and it was building up in the same spot. It was lighter in color. It wasn't black. It was more like a white, tannish, orangish stuff that was building up, and I made a video about it. Here is that video, and here's what I said in that video. So first of all, I want to go ahead and say that the car has been running good. No reason I would suspect any issues. You know, I've said multiple times that there has been this misfire that has developed that is not directly related to ignition, so it's something else going on. So with keeping that in mind, let's actually look at the new discovery. I don't know if you can tell, but see there in the coolant tank? There is a lot of stuff. Now if you look down in there, there's nothing floating on the surface of the coolant. It does, however, smell kind of funky. And even a couple of you who still follow me today mentioned in the comments you hope it's not a head gasket issue. I thought it wasn't a problem either. I actually took the car back to the dealership I bought it from, explained the issue. They checked it, and you know what they told me? You know exactly what they told me. There's no problems, that's normal. Here we are, not even 2 years later, a little over a year later, this has been going on long enough for these two cylinders to be clean like this. I think the day this happened, it was a perfect storm, I think, because things were so hot. Whatever was leaking, it, opened up and failed enough to allow all that coolant in and completely screw this cylinder up. And once again, you can see a lot of black stuff all around. I mean, it's all the way around, so I don't know if this is from the gasket or if this is indication of exhaust leaking by, I don't know. I thought usually you would see it like more going up or whatever, but there is a lot of black stuff that does not come off with a rag or a towel. It's in there pretty good. Because, my theory is if this has been happening, it's been happening a long time. And, even rubbing it doesn't really come off easy. It's really baked into the metal there. Right there, right there, right here. And the weird part is I've checked this gasket and I looked around. Perhaps I need to look more, but I have not found anything that looks like it was allowing coolant to seep through. But then again, I'm not really sure what I'm looking for there. I know this is a multi-layer gasket. There's 3 layers to it. Probably need to pull it apart and check. But looking around where it seals around the combustion chambers, I don't see really anything I would say. I mean, there's some black here. Is that from exhaust gases leaking by? I mean, you can see it in certain parts, black there, or is that normal? I don't know. I really don't know this. I'm sorry. This is my ignorance showing my inexperience. If you know what this is this indication of exhaust gases leaking through the gasket? Let me know. I really want to know. I really don't know what to think of this now. Not only have I found this mess and potential evidence of a sealing issue between the cylinder head and this block, you also got to remember that I found, the problem here with the silicone rubbing against the chiming chain. I have found cracks here on the front crankshaft bearing cap and a crack here where the bolt goes and holds this cap down. All of this is very, very discouraging. And I almost want to say that I've had a defective engine since day one. And these were just so small problems that they were not going to show up right away. These were problems that were only going to get worse as time went on. Ticking time bomb. I feel like because of these issues, if I have not modified this engine at all, this would have happened eventually. This engine was guaranteed to fail. It wasn't a matter of if, it was just a matter of when. And I think this, for me, answers what happened here. And this is probably going to be my final theory that I'm just going to go ahead and stick my guns with on why this engine failed suddenly and why it failed in the way it did. I think this is due to hydrolock from coolant intrusion. There was a compromise in the seal between the gasket, which allowed that coolant to come through these open galleys and seep into these two cylinders. Things expanded even more. It allowed just enough coolant to enter the cylinder. Piston came up. It could not compress the liquid. What does it do? Shatters the piston. That's really, really discouraging. But I still am not done tearing this engine apart. So before I finish the video here, we're going to go ahead and get each one of these pistons out, inspect the bores and everything, inspect the connecting rods, and that way we can wrap up here this crazy, crazy teardown. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. Let's see how number one looks. Ooh, number one looks like it spun a little bit too. Actually, that's not even the bearing, that's the cap itself. The bearing's still on there. Yeah, look at that. Bearing spun in the cap there. Looks like this one spun itself too. Look at that. 4 spun bearings. All right, let's go ahead and get these pistons out real quick. That came out really quick. I was not ready for that one. Well, I don't think we were using this piston anyway. Oh no. Oh, wow. Okay, there's a lot to examine here. We'll look at these here just in a moment. This one, ooh, I don't know how to get this one out. Ooh, maybe I'll just work at it here. It might pop out. There it goes. Oh my God. Look at that. Holy hell. Oh, that bore is not going to be happy. Oh, look at this. Oh my God, it's a twisted mess. All right, here's another one that I almost dropped again. This one's not so bad. Definitely in better shape than the other ones. Now for the last one, number 4. First glance, number 4, just like number 1, just like everything else shows. Well, we got her flipped back over now. Let's go ahead and check number 3's bore. And, oh, no. Oh my God. Whoa, that is nuts. Look at that. Oh my God, it's scored all the way down. I guess when it broke up, it just, in the rings, you can see a line going straight down the bore from that cracked ring. Pretty sure this bore is not savable. Some of these things feel pretty deep. Yeah, especially down here towards the bottom of the bore where that ring dug in. It definitely probably going to take more than 20 thousandths, which is probably way more than you would ever want to take out of an open deck block like this. I mean, these cylinder walls are actually puny. These are so thin. So I can see why things don't hold up past a certain amount of power with these blocks. There's just not enough there. There is not enough material. And you know, the further say, this kind of damage I've just never seen before. I mean, so what it looks like happened, because here is the rod and the wrist pin is still in the rod. Just as I thought, the rod just ripped itself away from the piston, and when it did, it pulled the whole back half of the piston off, which is what junked everything up down in the bottom end. That is unreal, and how the rings like this just curled around the aluminum and then of course dug in with that corner there all the way down, just oh, it's so bad. Well, I probably only did it a couple times. So back when I kind of first said what I thought happened and all the sounds I made, and I mentioned that there was a brief rattling sound before it completely shut off. Well, this is your rattling sound. It definitely went down and back a couple times after the ring broke and scored up that wall, and then finally came up and just stuck itself. And then this just went, just ripped right through it. I mean, all of these bearings are spun. These are all garbage. There isn't really one good piece here. I mean, as far as the rods go, this one's also a little on the bent side. Oh my God, but this is no surprise. I mean, look at that. That is crazy. This is just more evidence of hydrolock. It went up, the piston cracked, but it didn't break. It went down as it was cracking a couple times. And that really quick reciprocation of things messing up was probably the rattling. And then that went up, jammed itself at the top of the cylinder bore. This yanked down, pulling the whole back half of it off, going around, spinning up in the balance shaft gear, gumming up the balance shaft, putting an extra resistance on everything, and frying every bearing. I think there's your synopsis on my Ecoboom. That is it. And it seems that the root problem was some type of coolant intrusion. I think we have all the answers we need. At least I do. Obviously, this block is garbage. Definitely would be a short block type thing because nothing is salvageable. Everything is trash. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that sums up what happened. So yeah, what do you think caused this engine to start leaking coolant in very, very early on in its life cycle? Let me know in the comments. I don't have a clue. It just so happens to seem that 2.0 Ecoboost, 2.3 Ecoboost, they have so many problems, so many reports. I mean, we're talking probably tens of thousands, if not more, of these blocks doing the same thing, leaking coolant into the cylinders, and it's always 2 and 3. And this has been going on for a very long time. And it seems like none of that has changed. Now, regardless of that, either Ford is hopefully going to try to do something right here and hopefully own up to the quality of their product and not blame the consumer for why their product failed. Because I think it's pretty evident that I found a lot of questionable things in this whole teardown, and then coming to a very plausible root cause of head gasket failure early in the car's life cycle, more down to manufacturing defects than user error. So if they have any bit of decency left, they will hopefully do the right thing, but of course I will update that if I ever get that far with anything. But with that said, I think that finally wraps up her Ecoboom mystery. It's been a very long few weeks. I am so tired. I hope you are enjoying the content because it is very, very exhausting to make, especially when it's hotter than the hinges of Hades in Florida. But if you do like the content, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It really does help. Share this with everyone you know. Keep a lookout for the next Karz Kreated video.